Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we have an interesting topic to talk about out of the state of New York, where Democratic Representative Ritchie Torres has ruled out running against Governor Kathy Hochul in the Democratic primary in the state. So the article begins from the Hill that says that Representative Ritchie Torres said Wednesday he is unlikely to run for governor in 2026, despite earlier indications he was considering a challenge to New York Governor Kathy Hochul's re-election bid. In an interview on MSNBC's Morning Joe, Torres said he plans to focus on his fight on Washington, where President Trump and the Republican majority in Congress are pushing through policies that Torres says would particularly harm his district in the Bronx. He said, quote, "I'm unlikely to run," when asked about 2026 re-election plans. "The assault that we've seen on the social safety net in the Bronx is so unprecedented, so overwhelming, that I'm going to keep my focus on Washington, D.C., so my heart lies with Washington, D.C. I feel like now more than ever we have to fight the catastrophe that is the Trump presidency," Torres added. Earlier in the interview, Torres stressed the negative impact that the massive GOP tax and spending bill would have on his district. The Senate version of his policy bill passed on Tuesday would cut approximately $1 trillion in Medicaid spending, the largest cut to Medicaid in history. Almost 12 million lower-income Americans would lose their health insurance by 2034, according to the Congressional Budget Office. Torres noted that two-thirds of his constituents are on Medicaid, the highest level of enrollment in the country, according to the congressman. "When America sneezes, the Bronx gets the flu," Torres said in the interview. "The Bronx is going to be the hardest hit by the $1 trillion cut to Medicaid in children's health care. Is going to destabilize every healthcare provider, every hospital in my district." Politico reported in November that Torres was planning to launch a statewide tour to raise his public profile as he considered a potential challenge to Hochul. He was sharply critical of Hochul, who he said, quote, "may be in denial about the depth of her vulnerabilities in 2026. He compared her to former President Joe Biden and his 2024 re-election ambitions. "In the case of Biden, instead of speaking out early, we waited until it was too late. Let's avoid repeating history, and let's avoid sleepwalking toward disaster and defeat," he said at the time. So Torres, I'm going to first show his district in New York. This district, which is going to be right up here. Let me get the map to focus inward so it's a little bit easier to see. Here we go. New York 15, this is the district that Ritchie Torres represents. He's in his third term, first getting elected back in 2021, and it is a very reliable Democratic district. On the Cook PVI map, if I can get it to, I'm going to have to zoom in again here just to get in it here. This district, the 15th district, was listed at Democrat plus 27 for the 2025 Cook PVI. It was Democrat plus 35. In 2023, Democrat plus 27. This is one of the most safe Democratic areas in all of the United States. So Torres, unless he gets primary challenged, he has no real risk of losing a general election in that district. The Democratic primary is the only one you have to watch for. And now I'm just kind of curious, actually, let's check if he does have any Democratic primary opponents. We'll go to New York, and we'll go to Democratic District 15. Right now, Ritchie Torres is still viewed as a potential candidate. The only other Democrat mentioned as a potential candidate is Michael Blake, a former state assembly member and candidate for the district in 2020 and candidate for mayor in 2025. If you were to run against Torres, maybe this could get competitive, but again, the general election is going to be safe Democratic no matter what. On the governor's side of things, this election is already going to be very closely watched, as Kathy Hochul's low approval ratings have opened the door for a Democratic primary challenge, so much so that her current Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado is officially running in this race. Now that Hochul and Delgado are facing off and Ritchie Torres has ruled out running, no other notable, well-known Democrats at this time are reportedly interested in running for this race. So the governor primary will end up being a 1v1 matchup of Kathy Hochul versus Antonio Delgado. And right now, Kathy Hochul has 4 endorsements from U.S. Reps Gregory Meeks, Speaker or Minority Leader of the House Hakeem Jeffries, Pat Ryan, and Tom Suozzi. Looking at the hypothetical polling in the early polls that have been taken so far, when Delgado and Torres were both being considered, Hochul had a large lead over them, starting around 49% in the most recent Siena College poll from the middle towards the end of June. Hochul had 49%, Delgado only 12%, Torres 10%, 4% saying other, 26% still undecided at this time. Torres getting around 10% was notably in either second or third place, but with him no longer in this race, it's possible some of that support consolidates behind Antonio Delgado. Even still, with 26% of the vote or so undecided, Kathy Hochul, more likely than not, assuming she has a good enough primary day turnout the same way the polls suggest, she should win this primary without too much of an issue. But again, we'll keep an eye on this if this changes or develops over time. On the lieutenant governor side of things, obviously Delgado's running for governor, so that won't be him again. There are a lot of Democrats that could potentially be a lieutenant governor, including Brian Benjamin, Jeremy Cooney, Brian Cunningham, Natalia Fernandez, Grace Lee, Donovan Richards, Robert Rodriguez, Kathy Sheehan, James Skoufis, and Mike Spano. It could be any one of them. On the Republican side of things, Lee Stefanik, the U.S. representative from the 21st District, is the most watched Republican right now. She has an announcement pending that should be coming out in the next few days or weeks or so. After her, 4 other Republicans have expressed interest, the most notable being U.S. Representative Mike Lawler. I would say it's more likely than not it's either going to be Stefanik or Lawler representing the Republicans in this governor's race. Right now, I would say Hochul versus Stefanik is the most likely matchup for November of 2026, but we'll have to wait and see. But Stefanik, if she announces, I think she'll get the endorsement of President Trump, and that'll essentially clear the Republican primary field for her. The early polling on that one shown that when Stefanik's name has been mentioned in these polls and in the most recent Siena College poll, that same one which looked at the Democratic primary, Stefanik starts out with a large lead over Lawler, 35% to Lawler's 18%. Republican Bruce Blakeman, who may also run, gets 7% of the vote. Polls from before that showed Stefanik 64 to 8 to 7 in favor of her in the coefficient poll. Siena from May showed her at 35, Lawler 22, Blakeman 11. So Lawler's support went down 4% from May to June. So I think we're going to see at least Stefanik be the Republican nominee here. This race is listed at likely Democrat for Cook Politico. Sabato, race to the White House. Inside Elections has it as a battleground. So all 4 of these political prediction, very reputable websites all have this race except for one listed likely Democratic. The early hypothetical polling has shown Kathy Hochul with a pretty decent lead over at least Stefanik in most polls. In 3 Republican-aligned polls, it showed that Hochul was only leading by about 6, by 1 in the coefficient poll. Harper Polling, which is a poll sponsored for an undisclosed Republican client, showed about an 11-point lead for Hochul. Siena College just had a new poll come out, which shows Hochul at 47, Stefanik 24, 29% of the vote undecided, though, so a large amount of undecided vote. A lot of that undecided vote, 24%, would go for Stefanik, though, as she's probably going to get around low 40% at worst in the general election matchup based on recent election history. She'd probably end up around 42, 43% at the lowest number, whereas Lawler faces very similar situations here. In those same 3 Republican polls, he's at the high 30s, low 41%, and that Siena poll, he's also at 24%. The Hochul's about 3 points down on that one. So that's where things stand on that front. As the recent election history in New York, as I mentioned, that governor election in 2022, this got very close between Kathy Hochul and Republican Lee Zeldin, only about a 6.4% win for Hochul over Zeldin, very close by New York standards. Typically the more reliable, safe Democratic state, it was only about a 7-point win for Hochul in 2022, which again brought up the possibility of Delgado and Torres running because Democrats were concerned that may happen again in 2026, and we'll have to wait and see if it does. 2018, Andrew Cuomo, before he won his last election before resigning in between 2018 and 2022 by 23.4%. At the presidential level, we just saw Kamala Harris beat Donald Trump in New York by about 12.6%, a likely Democratic win, which was less than Joe Biden's 23-point win from back in 2020. So New York, both at the governor and presidential level, over the last 4 years, has shifted a pretty sizable amount towards the Republican direction. At the Senate level, though, not really. Kirsten Gillibrand still won by 18.3% in 2024. Chuck Schumer won by 14 points in 2022. As for my most recent prediction in New York, I actually do have it starting out as lean Democrat right now, as I think there's a lot up in the air for this race. It's possible come election day if Kathy Hochul wins the Democratic primary that she wins this race by more than 5%. I don't think she wins it by more than 15%, but it's possible she wins it by more than 5%. But for now, I have it as lean Democrat, which is in between 1 and 5% margin of victory. Make sure to leave your thoughts and all your comments or questions down below in the comment section. Make sure to hit like and subscribe on this video as well, and keep an eye out for more videos that I am posting, as I post 3 new videos every single day. Thank Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you in a future video. Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. And today I'm going over a news report that ex-Ohio Supreme Court Justice Bill O'Neill has officially joined the race for the district held by GOP Representative David Joyce. The former Ohio Supreme Court Justice Bill O'Neill has officially announced his plans to run in the Northeast Ohio congressional seat. So it begins by saying that the 78-year-old Democrat said on Wednesday that he is coming out of retirement because he, quote, can't sit idly by as my government falls apart. Reasonably priced health care is out of reach for a majority of Americans. Armed thugs with masks masquerading as police officers are openly violating the U.S. Constitution, and environmental protection is a thing of the past, O'Neill said in a statement provided to the Associated Press. He said Joyce is, quote, a nice guy, but he needs to answer for his votes in favor of President Donald Trump's agenda and the actions of billionaire Elon Musk, who ran the President's Department of Government Efficiency initiative. The U.S. Army veteran, registered nurse, and former appellate judge served on the Ohio Supreme Court from 2013 to 2018. O'Neill said that, counting his judicial runs and past bids for Congress, voters in the counties comprising Ohio's 14th congressional district have delivered him victory 9 out of 12 times. Joyce, who is 68 years old, is a former, I'm going to definitely pronounce this incorrectly, Geauga County prosecutor. He served in the House since 2013. His campaign did not immediately respond to an email seeking comment. So this is very interesting here. This news is coming out of the 14th District. The 14th District is located in northeastern Ohio. I'll be going more into the recent election results and rankings on that in just one moment. It takes in the eastern suburbs and exurbs of Cleveland. The incumbent Republican is David Joyce, who was reelected with 63.4% in 2024. Now, it is worth noting, Joyce, at this time, the incumbent U.S. representative, has not officially said if he's running again in 2026 or not, so he has not yet said that. One Republican, Mark Zeltzer, a field technician and nominee for the 11th District in 2014, has expressed interest in running. So far, though, David Joyce does have, as of March 31st, 2025, roughly $2.93 million cash on hand for this race, and Bill O'Neill, the former justice, is now the only Democrat running in this race. Cook Political Report and Sabado Crystal Ball, two highly respected political prediction websites, have the race listed as safe for the Republicans. And when you look at the district, you really start to understand why. The Cook Political Voter Index has this district at Republican +9. So that would actually be considered more of a likely Republican district based on the rankings of 1 to 5 being lean, 5 to 15 being likely, and 15 plus being safe, which is very common in the political prediction world. Republican +9 is actually a likely rating. However, this district is not in the competitive rankings for these races. It's not in likely Republican, where the Cook PVI currently has it. The consensus ranking for the 14th District of David Joyce right now is safe Republican on the 270 to win website. And that's consensus. Sabado's Crystal Ball has it listed as safe Republican, as does Cook Political Report. Inside Elections does not have it because they believe the map in Ohio will be redrawn. Of course, we still have to wait for all that to work out. But it is very interesting that it's starting out, despite being R+9, as safe Republican. And a large reason being is the election performance of the Republican incumbent, David Joyce. Joyce was able to win this race in 2024 by 26.8%, and I will be going more in depth on the counties in this district in just one moment. Joyce won by about 26.8% in 2024, won it by 23.5% in 2022. When the district was drawn differently in 2020, he won it by 20.2%. 2018 was the last time it was more of a competitive race. Joyce won it by 10.5% in 2018. 2016, Joyce won by 25.2%, and in 2014, Joyce won it by 30.2%. It was Republican for Joyce in 2012, 15.3%. 2010 was the last time a Republican that wasn't Joyce won it by 33.5%. So it's been a pretty reliable Republican district in every election, except for 2018, where it was Republican plus 10.5. So a likely Republican win was the most competitive this race ever got. 2018 was the last time there was a Democratic-friendly midterm election, as 2026 is supposed to be based on historical trends and precedent. Ohio in 2026 should be on track to be like 2018, more so than 2024. But again, that's all speculation. We'll have to wait and see until it eventually actually rolls out that way. So those are the recent election results. Joyce has won it by a very reliable margin. And looking at 2024, David Joyce won 63.4% to the Democrat Brian Bob Canderas' 36.6%. The way this district is split up is the largest county by overall votes in 2024 was Lake County. Lake County you're going to find right here. This is a suburban county. It used to be a lot more competitive in the like Ohio as a swing state era of like 2008 and 2012. And then as President Trump came along and started to get more and more Republican, Lake County voted with the most votes, 120,624, for David Joyce by about 64-36, a 27-point margin. So that was a very big win for him there. The second largest county we have is Trumbull County, this one right here, 91,757 votes. This was also a 19-point win, a very reliable Republican win here as well. Portage County is the third largest county by votes, 77,042. Joyce won by 21 points. Again, I am terribly sorry for this pronunciation. Geauga County voted for Joyce by about 40 points. That got about 52,744. And then Ashtabula County voted 37 points for David Joyce, 41,691 votes. So all of these counties, there's only 5 counties in this congressional district, but they're all pretty large and decent in terms of population size. For instance, in some congressional districts I've covered in other parts of the country, we'll have some counties with only a few hundred to a few thousands of votes, while the rest have maybe one or two have like 200,000 or something. And this one, they're all pretty decently sized, at 41,000 being the smallest number in 2024. Lake at 120,000 clearly is the largest, but Trumbull being 91, Portage 77, Geauga 52, and Ashtabula 41.7 is certainly all very big, sizable numbers. The problem for the Democrats in this one is none of these counties were very competitive in 2024. The smallest margin of victory was Trumbull County at Republican plus 19, meaning the smallest margin of victory for the Republicans was a still safe Republican strong victory in 2024. So that's certainly not a great sign for the Democrats in trying to make this district competitive. As for 2022, it was about 3 points or so, or maybe 2 points or so less competitive, or more competitive than it was in 2024, excuse me. The margins on this one, it looked more like this. Here, Lake County was still the largest at 93,427 votes, and it was Joyce plus 25, so again, safe Republican. Trumbull was still the most competitive county at Republican plus 16 for 71,687 votes. Portage won 17 points for Joyce, 58,654. Joyce won 34% by Geauga and 33% in Ashtabula. So this margin, again, showed that the most Democratic county, Trumbull County, still voted over 15% over a safe Republican margin. So this is certainly more of a safe Republican district, and the Democrats have a very tough uphill battle in this district in 2026. What Democrats are hoping to do, though, is for this district, like if I was advising the Democrats on what to do, you would love to try and flip Lake, but that's going to be very tough. But Trumbull and Portage counties have to be the 2 counties the Democrats focus on. These 2 areas in Portage and Trumbull, these have the most potential at potentially being competitive in 2026. I don't think the Democrats are going to be able to win these areas in 2026, nor do I think they're going to be able to win this district, but trying to target these 2 areas and make them competitive, given they had the smaller margin of victories in 2022 compared to 2024, I would target these 2 areas. But again, this is a very steep uphill battle for the Democrats. And it goes without saying, of course, that in my own personal predictions for 2026, I have this district listed as safe Republican. Maybe the Democratic candidate can make a better than usual run in this area. He has a very impressive pedigree, but again, I think the Republican representative holds on and wins here without too much of a problem. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you did. Leave a comment below telling me all your thoughts on future video ideas you'd like to see me cover. Thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you in a future video. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. Today we are talking about the Ohio 7th Congressional District for the 2026 election, where the first Democratic candidate has officially joined the race. Democrat Michael Eisner released a statement. I have it here pulled up. This is on his LinkedIn page. He wrote that I am officially a Democratic candidate for the United States Congress in Ohio's 7th Congressional District. After great deliberation, I take on this challenge in an effort to bring common sense and compassion back to D.C. I pledge to listen to all voters, regardless of political ideology or wealth, and work to make the American dream real for real Americans. My motivations for taking on this challenge come from my experience as a lawyer and survivor of cancer. The current administration and incumbent implemented and support economic policies that will make our lives more difficult and stressful, as well as making significant cuts to medical research, science, and access to healthcare, not to mention the disregard for the truth and rule of law. Please support my campaign. Together, we can create change and do great things for the people of the 7th District and our country. So what's interesting about this race is on Ballotpedia, it has the U.S. Representative Max Miller and Michael Eisner listed as two candidates. Eisner does not have too much information to go off of in terms of past history on Ballotpedia. And also it's worth interesting noting as well that the Wikipedia page for this race does not have any update on Michael Eisner in this race. So that might be getting updated soon, but for the purpose of today's video, we're just going to talk about he announced it, he's in the race. Now there is one Democrat currently running in this race. Ohio's 7th District, which stretches from ex-urban Cleveland to rural areas in north-central Ohio, including Medina and Worcester. The incumbent is Republican Max Miller, who was reelected with 51.1% of the vote in 2024, so not a super high number in terms of percent of the vote. That indicates a more competitive election. The incumbent rep, as I mentioned, Max Miller, is eligible to run for re-election. He has not yet said if he will, so we'll have to wait and see how that all goes, but more likely than not, he's probably going to run again. And then if he does not, I'll do a video saying that he did not. Right now, he has currently $416,000 cash on hand. And just to show you this district, the 7th District, it's going to be this one right here, which according to the 2025 Cook Political Voting Index is Republican +5. I'll just pull it in here. This district right here, Ohio 7, as you can see, goes from this part of the state and kind of goes up close and borders the Ohio 11 area, which is where the city of Cleveland is a part of. It's also neighboring Ohio 13, which is a very competitive district that is listed at even on the 2025 Cook PVI. This district is only Republican +5. So by my rankings of 1 to 5 being considered lean, 5 to 15 being likely, this district falls right on the border between being a lean and likely Republican district. So it shows that it should be very competitive. And when you look at the recent election results in this district, I'll pull it up here, in 2024, it showed that Max Miller won by 15% of the vote. And it's worth noting the Democrat only got 36.12%. An independent candidate got, or third-party candidate, excuse me, should watch what I say there, independent, or a third-party candidate, I'm sorry, got 12.8% of the vote. Miller got 51.1%, Matthew Deemer, the Democrat, got 36.1%, and the independent, got 12.8%. So vote splitting there led to a very large margin of victory for Miller of 15 points. Back in 2022, Miller defeated that same Democrat, Deemer, by 10.7% of the vote. So about 5-point larger margin of victory in 2024 than 2022. Before that, the district was drawn much differently. In 2020, before the census that redrew the map, it seems that this district had parts of Ohio 7, of the old Ohio 7, and Ohio 16, and a little bit of Ohio 9. Now this district has been kind of redrawn to have parts of those districts and represent here. So it showed a pretty big win for the Republican Ohio 7 Miller in 2022 and 2024. Before that, Ohio 7 technically was 17.5. 2016 was Ohio 35, and then about a safe 100 win before that. So this district's very interesting. It's hard to compare because this one's been drastically redrawn from 2020 to 2022 and 2024. And there's a possibility of this district getting redrawn again as the Ohio Republicans are seeking to redraw the House map for 2026 in hopes of getting rid of the 3 Democratic close districts, Ohio 9, Ohio 13, and Ohio 1, those being the top Republican targets. Republicans would love to redraw the map and get those seats as well. But for now, this district, which again shows it can be very competitive, and a 10-point win back in 2022 shows what this could be. Now I'm just going to show you the more in-depth results for this. I'm going to pull up the Ohio map here. We're going to go to Ohio 7 with Max Miller for 2024, and I'm just going to set this up also for 2022 as well. Okay, so that's all set up. For 2024, Max Miller, as I mentioned, won 51.1%. Democrat Matthew Deemer got 36.1%. Overall, there was roughly about 400,371 votes, in this election in 2024. This district is only made up of 4 counties. The largest by far features part of Cuyahoga County, which encompasses the city of Cleveland. So Cuyahoga County is kind of split almost in half here. A lot of Cuyahoga right here, this region, which is that Democratic district, is here, but parts of Cuyahoga are in this district. And unsurprisingly, one of the most Democratic districts both in the state of Ohio and in the United States voted very, very close. But this part of Cuyahoga County voted for the Republican Max Miller by about 3%. Miller got 44% of the vote, Matthew Demmer got 41%, and then Dennis Kucinich got 15%. I obviously have not looked at the 2022 results yet, but I would bet without the independent in this race, the Democrat likely won this part of Cuyahoga, but we'll have to wait and see. The second largest county in the district is Medina. Medina, 102,347 votes. Again, this is the county that borders this part of Cuyahoga County. And it went for Miller 59% to 31% for Demmer. So a very big Republican win here as well. Third largest is Wayne County, 51,874 votes in 2024. Miller won it 67 to 25. So a very big Republican win here of 42%. Very, very big. The last county, Holmes County, which is a very small population county, I'd imagine a very rural county, only 2,637 votes in 2024. It went for 68% for Miller over the Democrat Demmer. So a very big win there. So it seems the farther you get away from Cleveland, the less Democratic and more Republican the districts get. So that could be very key for the Democrat strategy for 2026 is to focus on these 2 counties, Medina and Cuyahoga, as the 2 strongest vote centers for the Democrats. But it is worth noting, if Cuyahoga is going Republican, there's a very great chance Medina, Wayne, and Holmes are going Republican by a margin large enough to make this race not competitive. If the Democrats are winning Cuyahoga, and Medina County is a lot more competitive, like if Medina County is only going to be, I don't know, roughly a 10 to 12% win, that could be a scenario where it gets more competitive. So that's how it looked in 2024. Let's take a look at 2022, because this could be what 2026 ends up looking like if the Democrats can make this race competitive. And this ended up being Max Miller at 55.4% to Demmer's 44.6%. And again, this is without the third-party candidate in the race, and here you go. Cuyahoga County, which again, in this election, the largest population as well, we got 186,268 votes of the roughly 303,487 votes cast in this election. Demmer got a 1.9% margin of victory in Cuyahoga. This is certainly very good for the Democrat that he won 51-49 in 2026 if the Democrats are really making this district competitive, given how Republican that Medina and Wayne and Holmes is. The Democrats going to have to get the margins in Cuyahoga County much higher if they want to win. Probably around a 10% margin of victory or so in Cuyahoga would make this district more competitive. Demmer only netted about 3,000 votes out of Cuyahoga County, whereas Miller won district-wide. You can see roughly here by, what's that, about 30,000 to 33,000 votes overall. The Democrats only netted 3,000 out of Cuyahoga. The second largest county, Medina, voted Republican plus 25 for Miller. Wayne voted Republican plus 40, and Holmes Republican plus 64. And see, this is what I'm talking about here. The Democrats' math in this district is very tough because Medina, the second largest county in the district, voted for the Republican Miller, netting him 20,000 votes just out of this area alone. 20,000 of his 33,000 or so district win. Whereas Wayne County, the third largest county in this district, netted Miller another 15,000 votes. So 15,000 plus about 20,000, that's roughly 35,000 votes out of these 2 areas. No disrespect to Holmes County, but only about 1,300 votes coming out of Holmes County. Unless the district is super close, the margin of victory for the Republican Miller and Holmes isn't probably going to make the difference in this race. The margins in Wayne and Medina are going to be the largest that Miller gets. So roughly, again, about 35,000 net vote lead out of Medina and Wayne County. For the Democrats to have a strong chance at winning this district, they need that Cuyahoga County, which is currently 3,000 votes. Technically, if you want to get technical with the math, it's about 3,600 votes in 2022. The Democrats need that margin of victory to be something more like 35, 36, 37,000 votes to draw out the margin that's going to come out of Medina and Wayne. It's possible the Democrats can win this district without having to do that without getting up to like 35,000, like if they can get to 28 or 29,000, but then they have to make significant inroads in Medina County and Wayne County, getting these margins, which were about a 20,000 net vote lead, getting it down to 15, and getting Wayne's 15 down to about 12 or 11,000. Their Democrats could try and win that way, but that's going to be a very tough task in this more Republican-friendly district, but it's not impossible if the election environment all swings towards the Democrats' direction. As for this House race, it's currently listed right now as safe for the Republicans on the 270 to win website's consensus 2026 rankings. The Sabado Crystal Ball has the district listed as solid for the Republicans. Cook Politico also has it solid Republicans. Inside Elections has all of them blank as they believe the map is going to be redrawn. Obviously, that's speculation for now. We don't know what the map will be redrawn like if it does, so I can't make any predictions on that standpoint. We'll have to revisit this if that does happen, but it's projected to be one of a safe Republican reliable district in 2026. I think the margin of victory may be under 15% for this district in 2026, so I would have it starting out as likely Republican, not lean Republican. I don't think the Democrats have much of a chance at flipping it, but I think it's going to be under that 15% margin. But this could be an area Democrats, if they have a very large election wave year, may look to target. Just to give you an idea of what I mean by that, 2022 was another midterm election that was supposed to be a very good night for the Republicans. President Biden had poor approval ratings at the time, but Republicans ended up winning the national House vote by about 3%. I wouldn't really call this a wave. I would call this more of like a relatively okay night for the Republicans. Not a great night, not an awful night, kind of like okay, that's a fine night. 2018, however, the Democrats ended up winning the national House vote 53.4 to 44.8, roughly about 8.9%. And the Democrats got up to 235 House seats. This is what I would call a very good Democratic wave. This is a wave election that flips several U.S. House seats where, again, 235 to 200 for the Democrats. In 2016, the Republicans held about 241 seats. So many seats flipped to the Democrats in 2018. That would be a big Democratic wave year. And in this election, the district, which was redrawn here, the 7th was a 17.5% win. The 16th was a 13.5% win, and part of Cuyahoga was 35.6 and Ohio 9 for capture. I would bet that district would be a lot more competitive in 2018 if it's drawn the current way it's drawn now. I bet it would be a lot more competitive on that 2018 election environment. So if the Democrats, who right now in the generic ballot lead by about 3 points over the Republicans, which would be more on par with what 2022 and 2020 were for the overall House population, if the Democrats can get to a 2018 number of about an 8 or 9% generic vote national ballot win on the House, that would be an election where a district like Ohio 7th could potentially get more competitive in Ohio, and we're seeing not just a Democratic takeover of the House majority, but a very large Democratic takeover of the House majority. Will that happen? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see how things develop over the next year and a half or so, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did. Leave a comment below. Tell me your thoughts on this video about this race and other topics you'd like to see me cover. Thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you in a future video.